Welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm, having a successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax business. I'm Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. I'm happy to have you join with us as we're talking about things that you can do to actually build the premier accounting firm and actually get paid what you're worth. Because we help accounting professionals confidently and competently offer quality accounting services to offer the premier services that their clients need so that they can get paid what they're worth. We invite you to listen to our other episodes and most importantly, subscribe to this podcast to get the most out of this experience. Now, as for who I am, I've got 20 years, actually more than 20 years now, working with accounting professionals, helping them start and build their accounting businesses, helping them actually maximize their potential in the services that they offer. One of the things that's exciting is the personal relationship I end up having with these individuals over the years, seeing them go from part-time incomes to full-time businesses to hiring their staff that they need, training them with the skill sets that they deserve to have to offer the quality services that they're wanting. Universal Accounting Center has been around since 1979, more than 40 years now, offering the accounting community resources, training, coaching, and support to literally provide the quality services that they need in their firms to be the premier accounting business. Now, today we actually have a wonderful guest. It is Martin Bissett. Martin happens to be someone that you may be familiar with because he's the founder of the Bissett Group. It's a family brand services of accounting profession for accounting professionals. He actually made his name by helping accounting firms via his build the pipeline and longevity ladder methodologies. Now, he's a published author and he has a number of topics. He's a teacher and global keynote speaker. In fact, in 2018, he got the International Accounting Bulletin and was designated as their official knowledge partner in recognition of his works for over the last 22 years in the accounting profession. And Martin is actually the founder of Upward Spiral Partnership. It's the international consulting firm that specializes in enabling accounting professionals to win higher-end clients, create leaders, and also help them get the ranks and lives that they're looking for. His professional purpose is to alter the accounting profession to a profound outcome that the advisory experience can create in offering their clients the lives that they deserve. So Upward Spiral happens to be the fourth business that Martin has had the opportunity of starting and running. He actually started this 5 years ago. Now, the company Upward Spiral Partnership was founded and created in the UK, and he's since then authored 9 books, including Passport to Partnership, content which has been adopted from the curriculum of the AAT Level 3 courses that he teaches at colleges and at the US CPA Society. He's actually been retained by the Accounting Web organization as a judge for the prestigious Practice Excellence Award. So he's got a wealth of information, an astounding background in the accounting profession, and he's come here today to share some of this with us. So Martin, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Roger. That guy sounds great. What a shame you've only got me.
Yes, well,
yeah.
You're going to do well stepping right into this role. I can already tell. So here's what I want to do. I want to get kind of a little bit of a background as to how all this came about. And I really want to step back a number of years and really see what brought you into the accounting profession. What got you as you began your career to be drawn towards the accounting profession?
Well, the answer to that is a complete fluke. What got me into the accounting profession was absolute chance. I was working in the IT industry at the time when CD-ROM was replacing a 3.5-inch floppy disk as the major medium of choice. And
now you're dating us.
And the audience are going, what did he just say? And so that was great at that time. But over the years, the ethics kind of disappeared altogether because it became a very, very, very pressurized sales environment. And I found myself questioning my own future. And so my decision-making went like this. Well, what do I want to do? Well, I want to help people. Okay, how do I help people and make money at the same time? Consultancy. Oh, okay. What do I know about consultancy? Precisely nothing. And so that was my starting point, and I used a little directory to find a management consulting firm in my hometown. I was working outside of my hometown at that time. And I gave them I just literally called them, picked up the phone right there and then when I saw their name and number. And the lady answering the phone said, how can I help you? And I said, I'm looking to speak to the managing director, please, or CEO, as we would say these days.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, what is the call concerning? And I said, the call is concerning employment. And they said, "Oh, is this about the vacant marketing manager's position?" I said, "It is now."
It is.
It is now. And it just so happened that this was a consulting firm who specialized in creating lead gen for opportunities. And they had just at that time broken into the accounting profession
Interesting.
because here in the UK, the institute, the main governing body, the ICAEW, Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, had just relaxed their guidelines for members on what was and what wasn't acceptable and appropriate for building or growing your firm. So,
Hmm.
prior to November 2001, you couldn't do anything. You really were very, very limited as an accountant as to how you could grow your practice beyond referral. But they made a major relaxation, and this particular organization saw an opportunity, and that is where I earned my spurs. I spent 13 years and 7 months there, and 10 of those were on the board of the company. So that got me an enormous amount of exposure to the accounting profession, to the challenges that managing partners and principals were going through, and what worked, what was proven to work time in, time out. So that's how it all came about, complete fluke.
All right. So, with that context, obviously you've got that experience doing the lead generation for accounting firms. What caused you to then go and start your own business?
You know when you have a favorite band or artist, and the group breaks up and they call it musical differences? Myself and my colleagues were experiencing musical differences, so creative differences, at that time, which is a diplomatic way of saying that we weren't getting along very well.
Hmm.
So I chose to actually set up something very different. So nothing that I have done in the company here is a replication of what was done there. So it wasn't like I'll set up in competition to you. It was I'll set up what I want this company to do, and it won't do. And so that was a decision that was made because I really wanted to be involved in certain projects and certain ways of helping accounting firms that there was no scope for in the organization I was with at the time.
So, as you were identifying what you were going to be offering as a new business, what were some of the holes, some of the needs that you felt the accounting firms had that you were going to be able to address?
That's a fantastic question. First and foremost, there was a mindset issue. So, for example, at that time, there was a huge amount of sales training. You don't see accounting firms spending huge amounts of money on sales training anymore, but you did back then. And that's because it was believed to be a learned skill, which it is. However, there is a battle that goes on first in having to win your first client. And when I say winning your first client, I'm referring to yourself. Because if you won't buy from you, you've got a very difficult job getting anybody else to buy from you. And what I found was that very, very few, if any, accounting professionals believed their own hype. Very few of them held their price when it was challenged. Very few of them wrote a proposal document that would make someone want to change from their existing accountant. So I knew there was something in the psyche that was wrong and that needed attention. And I knew that there was this mindset in the profession that didn't believe in itself. And given how profoundly impactful accountants can be in the lives of business owners, I felt that was a very strange misnomer and set about trying to create something that would address it.
I love how you've described that. In fact, a lot of what you said are verbatim what I would say, because so often what happens is these accounting professionals, they are great at what they do. They're phenomenal at the skill sets they have in offering quality accounting services. But the challenge they have is unless they're getting paid, what does it matter? And so one of the mantras we have is nothing happens until you make a sell. And where you were describing that the person needs to be able to sell in such a way that they would buy from themselves, I think is so profound, because all of a sudden it just kind of turns on a light bulb for someone to realize, you know what, if I were being presented the services the way I present them, if I was describing the services, the benefits or features or however it is I'm going about it in such a way that I wouldn't even buy from myself, there's your first problem. We've got to get that process basically resolved to the point where you're confident in what you're doing because you would actually buy from yourself. And that's a huge hurdle to get over. So I like how you described that. So you start your business, you go out now on your own. Tell us about that first year, that experience now of starting your business.
That first year is probably the year of insanity, Roger, because I set out with, let me see now, no clients, no funding, no office, no car, no website, and real questions asked about my mental capability at that point. That was a strange time, and I just did what I knew to do, which was to hustle, make phone calls, try and create
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. But as we know, uh, our profession is not one that makes a decision particularly quickly. And what I was offering wasn't an impulse buy either.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be considered, And as a result, I've made an alarming miscalculation of, well, where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
So while I'm waiting for practices to decide whether they want to work with me or not, there's no money. So I was 20. No, I wasn't. I was 72 hours from going out of business. And I was in my car. I managed to get a car by that point, a real junk, as you would say over there. Um, and I'm sat in my car overlooking the hills of the valley that I live in and have grown up in. And I received a phone call from my accountant. Now, what was unusual about this call is that it wasn't scheduled. He called just out of the blue. And he said, "Hey, how's it going?" And I said, "It sucks." And I described, what was going on. There was no business. And he said to me, "Okay, okay." And he calmed me down and he gave me some advice. And I followed that advice. And no joke, literally, true story, 24 hours before the money ran out, i.e., when the bills were due and the deadline, I got my first contract, which
Wow.
the value of which was equal to the penny to my break-even position for the year. so no profit, but out of the woods. And as a result of that wouldn't have happened without an accountant choosing to be proactive and reaching out to, let's face it, a small fry client of his, certainly not in the A league there, and saying, "How are you doing?" That was the conversation. "How are you? How are things going?" That was as technical as it got, and it was that really got the business moving. So no one has to explain to me the power of a proactive advisor in the life of a business owner.
Well said. Yeah. So I'm curious. I want to address something here that I think a lot of our listeners can really relate to, which is that struggle you described. A lot of us, as we're starting our businesses, and it happens periodically in business anyway, is we get to that low point, and it's an emotional experience. I mean, your self-worth, in society and culture, one of the very first questions, if not the first question we're asked, is, "What do you do for a living?" That very thing that defines us, we're failing at. And in your case, you've gone nearly a year at this point without any success to really be, proud of. And you're on the verge of really it all coming to an end. And you got that first client. What was that emotional experience? I mean, what was it that you were experiencing when you were on that low? And what was that high like after all of a sudden you were then validated that what you were offering somebody was willing to pay for?
I think on the low side at its worst was paralyzing.
Mm-hmm.
Because having been in inverted commas here, Roger, a big shot, director with the company car, the company pension, the company health plan, revered far and wide, and so on, to that scenario was a test of the ego and how
Yeah.
strong the ego was. So it was paralyzing because I'm speaking here, hopefully in a way that the listeners won't be offended by. But if you're a male, and maybe this applies to females too, but it seems specific to male, that you have this hunter-gatherer-provider wiring and programming within you. So you base a lot of your self-worth or identity on
Mm-hmm.
whether or not you're delivering on those scores.
Yes.
And I wasn't delivering on those scores after having 20 odd years of delivering on those scores. So that was a big test of my resolve as to whether I could ride out those storms. But on the high side, when it was validated, it was, I think you've used the word there, actually, validated. It was a confirmation that what I thought was the case was actually the case. I
Yeah.
thought I had a strong value proposition.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had a price that could be comfortably justified with a demonstrable return on investment. I thought I had something that was of genuine need and want to the accounting firms in question. And it turned out to be right, but I had to wait to find that out.
Yeah. One of the things that I had this same conversation with another person recently, and it was interesting how the conversation evolved because it became a discussion of here you are, you're very convicted and convinced that what you're offering is of value. It's needed. People need what you're offering, and you're going through, I think, initially some of those self doubts, maybe imposter syndrome of really, I'm trying to put the best foot forward and really play as if it is successful. But it's when that sale occurs and someone actually says, I'm going to pay you for your service and I see value in what you're offering. I need what you have. It's akin to being born again. It's that baptism that all of a sudden you've got a new beginning. And I think it's reinvigorating. It's all of a sudden validation that what you actually have created and offer is needed and people are willing to pay for it. And that's huge. And I know the people listening can reflect back on a moment where they were in that exact same situation of self-doubt. They were faking it till they could make it kind of a scenario. And then finally it happens. Somebody looks them in the eye and says, I need what you have and I need you to help me and I'm willing to pay you for it. And that self-validation then is so gratifying. So I appreciate you sharing that story because it's, I think, very, very true for all of us. So let's talk about then your business. It's definitely got to be different today than it was that first year. What are you doing now that really is resonating with accounting professionals?
Well, here's the continuation now, Roger, of the story we've just told, because at the beginning, it was, I have a value proposition. I have a thing. Will you buy it? Which is where we all start. But what's fascinating about that, and I think your audience is in this position now, is that after a certain amount of time, you are no longer a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
You're either an established professional, or you're an expert, or you're a veteran, or you're an influencer, or you're whatever you happen to be. So it changes. The proposition, your value proposition changes because you no longer sell anything. Your knowledge is so broad and so concrete that you see the same issues forming over and over again. So you transition your position from, this is what I've got to sell, do you want to buy it, through to, it doesn't matter what your question is, the answer is yes. Because whatever it is that you need, I've already solved it somewhere else. So I'm no longer selling anything except the comfort that whatever it is you need dealing with, we do it. It's not put in the way of services. We have a tax department, we have an audit department, it's not in that way. It's simply being able to sit down with a peer, potential client, where you could say, okay, one's the buyer and one's the seller, but we change that proposition.
Mm-hmm.
Now we become two peers collaborating to solve a problem. One, the buyer has got the problem, and two, the seller has got the solution. And we're no longer, however, saying, well, it can do this and it can do that, and we're listing the features of the thing. We're now saying, talk to me about your business.
Yep.
Talk to me about what's going on. Talk to me about the roadblocks. Talk to me about what you're struggling with. Talk to me about why the cash position isn't as good as it should be. And as they tell you what the concerns are, you're going, oh, yeah, okay, that's solution number 2, number 4, number 9. You already know what the solution is, and you are able to transfer tremendous confidence into the client or potential client that you're talking to because you understand their concern, you can demonstrate that you know how to fix it, and you can demonstrate that you fixed it somewhere else previously. This isn't your first time. And that's where my business has gone, where this knowledge partner term has come up that was given to me. I didn't come up with that. But the knowledge partner was in recognition that the people who gave it to me called me that because they couldn't ask me a question that I didn't have the answer to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not being glib or boastful. It's been 22 years. If I don't know all the answers by now, what am I doing? What
That's
I haven't
right.
been paying attention very well up to now, because there aren't that many different issues. And so I think your audience are in a similar position in that for any of them who are perhaps 10, 15 years in to running their own firms or to being in the accounting profession, the business clients that they talk to, unless there's some really complex international tax matter going on, they're not going to throw anything at you that you haven't already seen before. And so you can then relax and stop saying, I need them to buy my thing, my compliance service or my tax service or whatever it happens to be, and say, okay, talk to me. Talk to me about your business, because whatever it is that you need, we've got the answer.
There's some words in there that I've really loved. I liked how you started with the peer interaction that you're having with the other business owner. I think that's an epiphany for a lot of people as they quickly realize that when you're across the table or across the desk from a business owner, you're a peer in the sense that you're also the owner of your own accounting firm. And we define it as being an accountrepreneur. They're a business owner, they're an entrepreneur, and you're talking as equals, as peers. And as you're doing this, they have a need, you have a service, and essentially what it is it's two grown adults coming up with what's the right way to meet the demand, the need that exists in that company. And all of a sudden, one of the things that I think you identified is there's this pivot that occurs when you get the experience enough that you all of a sudden have the confidence to walk in any of those situations and now actually be an influence. You have something to offer, a value that's going to be paid for, and that confidence comes at this moment of a clarity, if I could use that, where you all of a sudden realize you do actually have something of value to offer that's beyond just the preparing of the financial reports and doing the tax return. You have insights, you have perspective. That experience enables you to bring to the discussion something that they need as a business owner to make more informed business decisions. And that's what you're getting paid for when you step beyond just the commoditized services of providing financial reports and doing the tax return. So I love how you've described that. So you actually have a 7-step marketing architecture that you speak of. Would you mind introducing us to that?
Oh, no problem at all. Yeah, I mean, I'm from the north of England. I'm a Scottish heritage, Roger, but I'm from the north of England. So I like to keep things very simple. We're simple people.
Good.
So we like to keep things very simple. And what I notice is that when the conversation turns to marketing in the profession, we all go to sleep. Not because it's not of interest, but because we don't understand it. It's not our discipline. It's like asking an Olympic swimmer to have the go at the pole vault. It's not really what they do. So as a result, when marketeers try to communicate marketing to non-marketeers and they use the jargon, you just switch off because I don't understand. I can't follow the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So on that basis, I found that there was a simple architecture that works for every professional service firm. It's not easy to get right, but it is easy to understand. And it doesn't cost you any money either. So I simply put that together, and the 7 steps are straightforward. The first step is to actually understand what it is you want to tell the audience being your potential clients out there. And the message, that first step of what we want to say, is the hardest part of this entire architecture, because most people internationally go with we're a firm of CPAs and business advisors. Wow, that's going to break the mold, and even the more adventurous of us turn it around and go, we're business advisors and CPAs, and it's like, wow, and who cares? So what? No one cares. So what you're saying there is, if you put out a message like that, they say, we're stating the absolute obvious, we're treating you like idiots, and only when you're in absolutely dire need and your current accountant let you down will you ever talk to us or even think about talking to us. Not a great marketing message. So what you tell the audience is what they understand. And I had a situation with a client, and we had this battle between us. He's the most gentle man, the most wonderful man, and he doesn't get annoyed until he meets me. And then, I was trying to get him to articulate his message to me, not in terms of a strap line or a catchphrase or a slogan or anything like that, just to tell me, why on earth work with him rather than the alternatives, you know? And he was saying, because we care, Martin. I said, so what? Because we're partner-led, Martin. So what? And it just went back and forth, and you could see the anger rising within him. And this went on, and I just went, so what, at him all the time until he just lost it. And he slammed his fist down on the table, and he said, damn it, Martin. We give people the business they need so that they can have the life they want. And I leaned over and said, what did you just say? And he went, ooh. And all of a sudden, all the light bulbs went on in that room, because he had just for the first time told himself what he'd never been able to tell anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't say accounting. It didn't say tax. It didn't say compliance or payroll or bookkeeping. He said that everything we do is an irrelevance because it doesn't matter what we do. What matters is that whatever we do for you gives you the business you need to give you the life you want. And as soon as he got that, it was away. And he's weaved that in to every element of his marketing now. So the message, that first step, is the longest one to explain, and it's the toughest one to get right. Another firm not far from that one firm that I was just telling you about, they loved that. And they said, can we steal it? I said, no, you can't steal it. And they said, but that's what we do. I said, that's what you all do. But they were on the south coast of the country. And so a lot of their business, a lot of their clients was seasonal, tourism, hospitality, maritime type stuff. So they took that same message and they reworded it. And they said, as their message, we steady your ship, we plot the course, and we go sail with you to your eventual destination, or your ultimate destination, I think it was. Same message, phrased differently, but everybody understands. So message is step one, hardest part to get right. It takes the longest to get that right. Second step of step. Sorry, go on.
Hold on. I'm going to chime in on this.
Go.
I think what you just described is so powerfully important because when we've had this same conversation with firms, one of the things that we kind of break it down into is three similar areas. It's cash flow. That's the most common thing that most businesses struggle with is cash flow. Yep. The second is generally management controls, watching the numbers and so forth. And then the last being taxes. Well, none of that is sexy. None of that is appealing. And to describe that is just the bore. But what we do is in the end, we focus on what does the business owner want? And that's what you're describing as you're going through these epiphanies with these business owners as to how to describe their services. They're getting to the nuts and bolts of what they're passionate about that they see that their clients appreciate and are willing to pay for. And so we've always broken it down to similarly, instead of cash flow, it's money in the bank. That's what they're looking for is I don't have to wonder or worry whether or not there's money in the bank. Regarding management controls, it's just, am I profitable or not? And then lastly, regarding taxes is, can you help me actually lower my tax liability? When those three things are articulated as you're describing in one way or another to the client, you're now describing yourself in such a way that's different than being the traditional accountant, bookkeeper, tax preparer, CPA, enrolled agent, or whatever the case may be. You're actually putting it into terms that matter most for that potential client.
That's exactly it. I mean, I call that the four walls of financial literacy.
Yes.
And a great friend of mine says the problem is, Martin, that a lot of people get into accounting wanting to help people and it gets trained out of them. And they're trained through their professional qualifications to understand that the conversation stops on the production of the annual accounts, where in fact the conversation starts on production of the annual accounts.
Well said, yes.
That's what he said. That's his position on it, So our second one is audience. Our second step is audience. So when we get the message right, who are we taking the message to?
Yes.
Because you ask a lot of accountants and bookkeepers, and they don't know. They don't know who their audience is. It's anyone with a pulse and the ability to authorize a payment. And that's not the true audience. Maybe it's owner-managed businesses or SMEs. Maybe it's a particular sector or niche, or as you guys say, niche. Maybe it's that. Maybe it isn't. But the fact that you don't know is a problem because you can't broadcast to an audience you don't know of.
Mm-hmm.
So the second point is really defining the audience so that you can acquire the data or set the strategy to broadcast that message that you came up with to the audience that is most receptive to it. And that can be defined in geographical terms. That could be defined in revenue terms. That could be defined in sector terms or industry types. It doesn't matter so long as you know where you're the most powerful.
Yes. So just with that one, in the marketing world, that's referred to as an avatar. And it's basically a client description. It's who's your ideal customer. And once you know who it is, then you're going to be able to identify where do they go? Where are they at? And you can go find them. But if you don't know what you're hunting or looking for, you're never going to know them, even if you stumble across them, because you've not clearly identified who they actually are. So I like that step. Good. Step two. What's step three?
And that's absolutely right, Roger. And on that, the other thing that will happen as a result is that you'll decide that all work is good work and constantly have a client base made up of whoever said they wanted to use you. And that can have a lot of price sensitivity in it, which means your profit margins are way lower than they should have been if you define your audience.
Yes.
So moving on to step 3 now. So once we have the message and once we have the audience, then we need to decide 3 ways in which we are going to reach out proactively to this audience. And what the 3 ways are almost an irrelevance as long as you go for 3 of them. And the reason why it's 3 is because of the general accepted mindset that if you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any priorities. So we, so we pick 3 so that we can test, so that we can compare, measure, and so on. So maybe we go out via a blog. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a blog, but I know plenty of people who are successful from blogging. So maybe we go out via a blog. Maybe that's not our thing. Maybe we're very, very comfortable in networking scenarios. Maybe we go out via networking. Maybe we hate that. Maybe we don't like that at all. Maybe we go out via an email shot instead. It doesn't really matter. If the audience is right and the message is right, it doesn't really matter how you do it, so long as you do it. So the third step is to find 3 ways to go and reach the audience proactively. Our 4th step now is the reverse of that one, is to have 3 ways to be found for your value to be found while you're asleep or while you're on the beach or while you're on vacation or whatever. So your website may be one of those, for example. Appearing on a podcast that can be listened to at any time might be one of those, for example. These are not proactive measures. They have to be found. They're not reaching out to the audience. The audience is reaching out to you in these scenarios. But combined with those 3 ways to reach, we also need 3 ways to be reached, again, to make sure we have the most chance of attracting our ideal audience without having too many priorities.
So I'm going to say something that's just purely coincidental to these 2 points that you're making about how you're reaching out and how you are found. And what we actually teach quite often is the rule of the thumb. And it's basically having 4 established marketing methods with a 5th being tested. And it's kind of similar to what you're describing, which is that 3. It's obviously one more than you're explaining it to be, but it's in that same light of essentially what are those key things you're doing to find your audience and communicate to your audience and be relevant to your audience. So that I like how you've described those 2 elements, both number 3 and number 4 of this process.
So then number 5, once we know what the message is, once we know who the audience is, and once we know what channels we are broadcasting that message to and to be found in, then we know what the ingredients are we need for the recipe. So do we need a piece of CRM software? Do we need someone to help us? Do we need some human assistance here? Do we need to buy advertising, or do we need to set up a new website or have a landing page? Or what is it we actually need? What are the ingredients that allow us to go out via these 3 channels and be reached via these 3 channels? And so it's really just a shopping list. The 5th step is simply a shopping list of what do we need, what resources, human and technological resources do we need to execute those 3 ways to be found and 3 ways to find.
Perfect.
On to step 6 then, is then the measures. How do we know whether all of this effort is going to be successful? What are we happy with? Does 1 inquiry a month make us happy? What if we don't close that inquiry? What if we need 4 inquiries a month to close 1 at $2,500? We're going to spend time. If we're not spending money, at least we are going to spend time on this. So we've got to decide what our metrics and measures are. That doesn't mean you have to go out and take a marketing degree to find out what it should be. You decide for yourself that if I do this marketing, I'd be very happy if I get result X in timeline Y. So 4 new inquiries in the first month, 8 new inquiries over the next quarter, whatever it happens to be, 50 grand's worth of new opportunity in the pipeline. Whatever it is that your measure is, it doesn't matter. You're not comparing yourself to anybody else. but you need to have it because that tells us whether what we've got is working or not.
Yeah, so what you're describing there are key performance indicators. And what's important about these is it allows you to backwards engineer things. If I know I need one client and my average client is, let's say, 3,000 in revenue, well, in order to get that one client, I know that I typically run at a 33% closing ratio. So I've got to be talking to at least 3 business owners. And if I need to talk to 3 business owners, I need to go out and with my marketing methods, bring in as many as, let's say, 12 new leads a month. You backwards engineer this knowing that if I hit the first metric of the 12 new contacts, I'm going to have the 3 meetings. And of the 3 meetings, I'm going to get 1 new client. It's just a backwards and forwards understanding your numbers. So I love how you described that. Thank you.
And that's exactly right, Roger. And when you can make marketing into a numerical process, you're hoping that an accounting profession likes that. It goes,
Yeah,
oh,
it becomes fun.
I get it. 12 to 6 to 3 to 1. Yeah, okay. And so the final step is the hardest one. The message is the longest one and takes the longest to get right. But the final step, while not difficult, is one that no one seems to be able to do. And once you've got all these things in place, we have our message, we have our audience, we have our 3 ways we're going out to market, we have our 3 ways people are going to find us, we know what we need to make it all happen, we've got all our ingredients for our recipe, and we've got our metrics or KPIs, as you rightly say. What's this final step that no one can do? Scheduling it. Actually making it happen. Actually making it happen, implementing it, the FTI issue. Did you do it this week? Oh, no, sorry, I got caught up with, there's always something else to be doing.
Yeah,
and when it's an area of...
We always say they had to organize the sock drawers, how we describe it.
That's exactly right. And what interests me is people think they have to do it themselves. That's not true. So to the audience, I speak directly and say, you have to understand it, then give it to someone else to do. Because if you give it to someone else to do when you don't know what's good and what's bad, then how do you know if they're delivering for you or not? And if you do it yourself, let's face it, we're not marketeers. It's unlikely to be quality. So on that basis, by all means, outsource this to somebody who knows what they're doing, but you have to master the process first so that you have a measure to understand whether what your outsourced provider is doing is any good or not.
So the thing that I love about what you're describing here is you have a process, and with that process, you're not expecting them to necessarily do it, but yes, understand it. And it's, I think, very similar to what we do with our own accounting clients. We're not asking that our accounting clients know and understand accounting and can do it, but we would like them to be to a point where they can at least have a conversation with us and ask the right questions so that they can intelligently run their businesses. There's a frustration when you work with a business owner that is intimidated by the numbers, doesn't like the numbers, doesn't use the numbers in their decision making because it's not a part of how they run their business. It's more beneficial to have a client that's actually intrigued with and interested in the numbers. So likewise, we shouldn't be doing all the sales and marketing that we're doing, but we do need to understand it. And as you're describing, either hiring someone or outsourcing it to someone, at least you can manage it because you're able to ask the right questions.
Exactly right. It's exactly that. And you find that whether it's a P&L or whether it's or an income statement, I'm trying to use my US terms, or whether it's a balance sheet or whatever it happens to be, we can't expect the client to understand that. We need to explain it to them so that they understand it, so that they can measure us on it. Same is true here for the accountant with the marketing. Understand the process so that when someone does it for us, we're not doing it, we know if it's being done correctly or not.
Yep. So we have a phrase that we use that describes, I think, what you've just said in a very concise way. And it's basically in marketing, we need to be able to say the right thing to the right people at the right time in the right way. And so identifying, obviously, who that right client is and getting that message on sync, all those little components developed in that marketing and sales strategy that we're looking for. So beautifully described, well said. Let me just kind of break away here for a quick second and just mention a word about our sponsor. Our sponsor happens to be Universal Accounting Center, and it's offering a book called In the Black. In the Black happens to be the book to help you run your business more profitably, learning the 9 principles to make your business profitable. Most importantly about this process is not only are you able to apply these principles in your own company, but likewise, you can learn these and take these concepts and principles to your clients and help them understand what they also can be doing to run their businesses much more profitably and effectively. So I encourage you to get a copy of your book now, In the Black. Go to the episode description and you'll find the information you need in order to get your copy of the book In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable. And with that being said, let me come back to you, Martin. I'm just kind of curious. There's a lot of change going on in the accounting profession. The profession itself is evolving, even though accounting hasn't changed in 500 years. It's still debits and credits. We still give credit to Fra Luca Pacioli for all this. But the point is it's still now being automated, and you've got artificial intelligence coming in. You've got the software companies that are complementing the entire process. With all of this change, yet the core staying the same, what kind of evolution do you see is on the horizon?
Well, there's two drivers to change. You're absolutely right. Accounting in and of itself hasn't changed, and human beings themselves haven't had a software upgrade for about 2,000 years. But tech is driving change in that over all this time, they've said, hey, never mind the desktop, go to the cloud. And we've gone, yeah, go to the cloud. And they said, hey, upload all your information so we can work out what you're doing. And we've gone, yeah, okay, we'll upload all our information. Oh, by the way, tell us who your clients are as well. Yeah, we'll do that. And now they can, unbelievably, how has this happened? They've managed to come up with technology that removes human intervention on the very basics of compliance work. Who knew? So when you've got tech companies with market caps of tens of billions of dollars, it's likely that their R&D budget's bigger than ours is. And on that basis, they're going to make further strides than we are when we're still taking care of Mr. Johnson's tax return for the 19th year straight, and he pays us his $250, and we're loath to get rid of him because, hey, it's Mr. Johnson. Now, so it's only natural that the profession will get outstripped by a forward-thinking industry on that basis. So a lot of us are being forced to change because what we used to get paid for to do as a human is now done by a piece of technology. So we either can't provide the same thing anymore, or we can provide the same thing, but the price point has changed. So that's the first driver. The second driver that I see as well, Roger, is that the generation that are currently in the senior manager and junior partner positions in larger firms at this point, which I would say is Club 2540. Those guys don't want to forge the same career path as their predecessors did. They don't want to do 30 years in order to have served time long enough to become a partner by default and do another about 10, 15 to 20 years and get the gold watch and the pension fund. That's not what they're looking for. There's far more within Club 2540. There's far more of a desire to leave a legacy. There's far more of a desire to be involved in meaningful, human meaningful work. There's far more of a desire to be attached to innovation because of the technological and digital upbringing that they've had that their predecessors didn't have. So I see change coming from two places. One, the tech companies saying, thanks for giving us all your info. We're now going to do it instead of you. And the other being from humans in Club 2540 saying, we really don't want to do it the same way as our predecessors did it. Mm-hmm. We want different, more challenging work, and we really don't want to have to account for our time in 6-minute increments either. And I see those as being the two major driving forces for change, and I'll even substitute the word change for improvement.
Yeah.
In the accounting profession.
Well, I like how you've described it because, yes, things are changing. And yes, we need to, in my opinion, embrace those because honestly, it is to our benefit. If we look back and see what frustrations people experience as just computers came on the scene and we worked away from the journals and ledgers where we had a visor on and we actually were recording on paper, kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge was having Marley out there writing things out. All of a sudden, what's happening is we've got the software that's helping us do this much more efficiently, much more effectively. And because of that, we can actually earn a decent income because the computerized reports are just basically date ranges and poof, it appears rather than us having to calculate everything. So there's a lot to be said for the evolution, and we've benefited from that evolution. And I think if we if we intelligently embrace it, we can capitalize on it as well as these additional changes come our way. What I think is also happening is we are becoming much more consultative. We're offering more advisory services than just producing the financial reports and doing the tax returns. There's a lot more information that we're now able to provide the clients, and that's where I think we can actually fill that void and get paid well for what we're doing and knowing. Let me kind of just ask a real kind of one-off question here. I know you travel quite a bit, so on a personal note, what have you learned from your travel? Have you liked your travel? Is it a drudgery? What's something that you look forward to in your travels?
It's actually both, Roger. The getting there is no fun at all. The being there is a lot of fun. And it's wonderful to meet professionals and people in different lands, cultures, societies, and jurisdictions. But even flying at a very nice level that I get to do these days, once you've been in first class, I'm not wishing to sound ungrateful, but flying is flying. And it still takes the same amount of time. You arrive at the exact same time as the coach passengers do.
Yep.
And yes, you had a much more comfortable experience, and yes, you are far more refreshed, and you were given certain luxuries at the time, but you still only got in an aluminium tin tube and flew to a place. So that novelty does wear off. So that's the downside. The upside is incredible. The findings is that people are the same everywhere.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the issues and challenges and concerns and hopes and dreams only change by the scale of them, not the nature of them. So every firm struggling with recruitment and retention, everyone's struggling with average fee levels not being high enough, everyone's struggling with working out what their succession plan's gonna be. It doesn't matter whether we're in Peru or whether we're in, Moscow, or whether we're in South Korea. It is the same. And while accounting firms are ruled by different sets of regulatory laws, nevertheless, a business is a business and a human is a human. And generally speaking, we find that only the scale of the issues change, not the actual issues themselves.
Yeah, the core of what it all boils down to is accounting is an international language. And as an international business, it doesn't matter where you are, it's still the same issue. You've got to be marketing, you've got to be finding clients, issuing the engagement, providing the service, doing it profitably. And the same challenge exists, as you said, in Peru, whether it be in the United States, South Korea. And that's, I think, one of the things that's so universal about the company or the services that we're offering is it is that applicable wherever we go. So very well said. I want to thank you, Martin, for sharing your insights and going to the extent that you have in providing this information. I'm going to put in the episode description some information regarding Martin and his company and give you a chance to actually look into his services a little bit more and get to know Martin for what he does. But let me just kind of recap what we've discussed. I think Martin's explanation of starting the business and the personal challenges we all face as we're going through the process of getting up and running, starting our business in the sense of, do people really value the product or service we're offering? Will they pay for it? And having that moment, that gleeful moment where somebody actually does choose to pay us for our services is profound. I think it's something that's at a very emotional level, very important. But at the same time, you identified, I think, clearly one of the key things that's so essential in having a successful accounting firm, and it's having an effective marketing process, a way to go out there and deliberately get the clients that we're needing to grow our business. Whether you're needing one new client a month, 5 new clients a month, you have to have a machine, a system behind there. And at some point, it's not that you have to be the expert, being the expert marketer. It's that you need to understand your own process so that you can ultimately manage it, having someone better than you actually do the day-to-day applications of it. So very well described and all that. Martin, is there a final thought or word that you'd like to share?
Gratitude, I think, is the word that comes to mind. All of these years, Roger, of working with the profession, I have seen accounting professionals take the lead and get involved in a business owner's life, um, where they're very good at what they do in business, this business owner, but they're not necessarily great running a business in doing whatever it is they do.
Uh-huh.
And I am the son of someone in that situation who for whom it didn't work out well. The business was lost. I'm the guy for whom the accountant helped and the business thrived. So I've seen both sides, and I've seen the impact of both sides. And I know what happens when an accounting professional, whether it's bookkeeping or CPA, chooses to live the most noble iteration of their qualifications and help a business owner become financially literate and relieve the financial pressure and strain on the person, on the business, on the household, on the marriage, and the profound, profound, profound difference that makes to someone's life. In the most extreme cases, it is literally the difference between life and death. And so I am very, very grateful to the audience here and to accounting professionals worldwide for the work that they do, because there is no other professional service that has that impact.
Martin, I know there's a huge story behind that, and I think it's powerful what you just shared, because it is so much more than just the numbers. It's so much more than the monetary services that we're providing. It is, like you just said, life and death. There's a lot of business owners that really we can help with their livelihood, their employees' livelihood, if we can just give them the information they need to make more intelligent business decisions. And if we can be that communicator, that translator of that information to empower them with that information, that's wonderful and that's huge. So thank you very much. I appreciate your taking the time to share with us these thoughts today. And I invite all of our listeners to, if you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast. This podcast is designed to help you build the premier accounting firm. And this episode, along with the others, is meant to give you the tips and tricks and the insights you need in order to successfully do so. And also reach out to Universal Accounting Center if you'd like more information on how you can apply these principles in your company by going to universalaccountingschool.com or giving us a phone call at 801-265-3777. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. And remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Thanks, Martin.
Thanks, Roger.